Hello everybody and welcome back to an episode of The Insider. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Pablo Alcantrilla. First of all, have I pronounced that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah, good start. Pablo is the CTO of a business called SLAMcore, which is a new business to me, which is really exciting. Pablo, over to you. Would you like to give us a brief intro and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks Ben, for inviting me to have a chat with you, and I hope people will find this chat interesting. So just talking a bit about my background. So as you mentioned, I'm Pablo Alcantrilla. I'm the CTO and head of research of SLAMcore. And SLAMcore is about SLAM is simultaneous localization and mapping, and I've been working in SLAM for more than 10 years already. So I studied sort of electrical and electronics and computer science back in Spain, with some intensifications in computer vision and biomedical engineering. And then I decided to do my PhD in visual SLAM. So at that time, 10 years ago, visual SLAM was something new to me. And sort of the topic of my thesis was to build 3D models of the world to assist visually impaired users for navigation. So sort of like a GPS, but much more precise and much more accurate. So in a way, then visually impaired users were with a camera system in a backpack and like a small computer that processed information, and we were able to localize blind people in cities with very high precision. And then we were sending them like audio commands, like walk straight to 100 meters and then turn right and you'll arrive to your destination. So that's how I started working on visual SLAM, more from an academic point of view at my PhD. Then we also, because SLAM, it's sort of fundamental technology to enable localization and mapping for robots or autonomous systems. So apart from testing those algorithms with visually impaired users, I also spent some time in Japan, where basically I was trying to use those algorithms into for controlling the humanoid robots, because in Japan they have very good labs and strong labs that they build humanoid robots. But then the humanoid robots, they need to do something. So that's why they need this localization and mapping and perception. So then after my PhD, still work a bit on SLAM, but in a different context. So I spent 1 year in France working in a university, and it was also like a laparoscopy center and colonoscopy. So I was running a SLAM during colonoscopy. So it's a completely different environment, but similar technology, where the goal was more to build a 3D model of the polyps during exploration, and then use machine learning to use the shape and classify that polyp to say, okay, this is something bad that the doctors need to remove, or it's okay, leave it there. Then continue some time in academia, 1 year in the US, working on SLAM for autonomous driving and autonomous robots, Georgia Tech. And then I think it was 2013, I moved to the UK. So I was a research scientist at Toshiba Research in Cambridge, where I was still working on SLAM, but also started to explore a bit more deep learning approaches for autonomous driving. So I work on semantic segmentation, change detection, also a bit combined with SLAM. After 2 years there, I spent 2 years working for iRobot Corporation, where I was working on the persistent mapping technologies of the robots. So robots being able to localize in your house any kind of lighting conditions, any changes in the map.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, so I met some of the SLAMcore co-founders, because I collaborated with one of the co-founders, Professor Andrew Davison, during my PhD. And they told me, hey, we're building this company, and it'll be great if you can join us. And I guess it was a very exciting opportunity. So back in 2018, we were about 5 employees. And after 2 years and a half, and some funding from our investors, now we are like about 25 people. I guess ready to release this at the end of the year, our first product to the world.
Fascinating. Honestly, I think this is something that I don't know enough about, you know, and I think I personally, I've seen recently on LinkedIn the Tesla self-driving and the kind of tech behind that, and it blows my mind. And I guess it's something that I don't know enough about, and I'm very likely in this conversation to say something very, very stupid. So please, give me some slack there. But as somebody who grew up in the 80s and early 90s, you know, the days of kind of Short Circuit and Terminator, I feel like it's just fascinating where robots are now, and what it, I guess, is around the corner, which I'm really interested to find out more about. But you guys are based, so you're based in London, are you?
We are based in London, so our office is in London, Victoria, so quite central. Then we have a few people working remotely, like 1 or 2 cases, but yeah, I guess most of the people are based in London.
So in terms of, so you're saying that the product that you're releasing this year, is this the first product that you're releasing as a business? You've been working on it over the last couple of years, is that right? Or
yeah, that's right. So basically, because I mean we are working SLAM. It's a fundamental technology for robots or autonomous systems, or even your mobile phone for AR. It has sort of some visual inertial SLAM. So, but the real challenge is like SLAM. It's a complex technology because the
sure.
idea of SLAM is that you take information from multiple sensors, cameras, accelerometers, gyroscopes, or the wheels from the robot, even LiDAR, and then you try to fuse all this information into sort of like probabilistic fashion, basically to estimate where you are in the world, and also to estimate what is the map around you, and also if you use some deep learning or some perception, you'll get an understanding of the objects around you. So there are many things there, and it's not so easy for companies to build a SLAM from scratch.
Yeah.
So what we want to provide to these companies is basically an SDK where they will be able to use localization algorithms,
Yeah.
mapping algorithms, and our perception algorithms. So then by using our SDK, they can focus more on the high-level applications in robotics or
So
AR.
yeah, understood. So is your product kind of suited for specific industries?
We are targeting more the robotics and drones space.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool.
just to focus on something because but then you know it's sort of like a fundamental technology that applies to many other areas, like for example autonomous driving, virtual reality, or AR. But at the moment we target more the robotics space because we believe that robots are going to be very important in the next years to come.
Well, this is it. I think I'm more interested. More interested. I'm fascinated by everything you're saying, but I'm really interested, I guess, in the future. You know, we find ourselves in an unprecedented time right now, where everybody's working remotely, and I'm going to guess that there's going to be quite a huge demand or more of an interest in robotics, kind of living in a post COVID-19 world. Have you seen this? Is this something that you guys can relate to as a business, or?
Yeah, I think now. I mean, during COVID, I think we definitely we have seen more interest into robotics applications.
Really, yeah.
More from companies and also from investors. So we announced like a few weeks ago like another funding round from our investors, which in a way helps because it's like robotics now it needs to grow a bit more, especially in these world circumstances where we are. And there are like limitless number of applications where I could see like robotics in this sort of like COVID-19 or post COVID-19 world where robots will be very useful, like delivery robots,
Yeah.
groceries, warehouses, logistics, telepresence. Not many people are working remotely. So, telepresence robot that you can use to maybe visit an office and talk to some of your colleagues.
Wow, that
Uh,
just blows my mind. That is just incredible, isn't it? That just, and I think that I think originally like kind of like drones, and I know there's a big thing about kind of Amazon with drone deliveries and things like.
yeah,
How far off are we? Do you think we're off that kind of drone deliveries?
that's a good question. I think I mean, of course, I'm a technical person, and a technical guy. I think we are close to. I guess one of the problems in robotics is facing the real world. Also, it happens as well in autonomous driving. Even though we can have simulators
Mm,
or like computer games that we can simulate
mm.
lots of cases, then you go out to the real world, and stuff happens, and it's not nice.
Yeah, there's it's interesting. Like from a recruitment perspective, over the last, I guess, couple of years, there's been a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence. So as a recruiter, I think you know that my speciality is within digital and data. Do a lot of work within data. So a lot of stuff within kind of deep learning and machine learning and a bit of AI, not a lot, but a bit of AI. But there's a lot of talk about how AI is coming to the recruitment industry, and ultimately you'll be able to post a job, and AI will match you with the best candidates. And I just don't believe that there's always going to be a massive need for kind of human interaction for qualification of good candidates and just the kind of personal touch of who you're hiring. So I think that AI in my industry is beginning to have an impact, but you still rely on the human interaction, the human touch, and the real world. Like I guess, like you're saying, with the with the kind of autonomous driving or with any of the other robots.
Yeah, I think we are there about like 90% of the technology is there, but then there are lots of corner cases, and that remaining 10% or 5% is basically what you have to do to deploy your robots in the real world. That's still very challenging because you have lots of corner cases, and then depends
Mm,
of the interactions of the robot with the weather conditions for a drone, for example. If it gets windy, that will become a problem, and also interaction between the robots and the humans, like
mm,
understanding how humans are going to react, and then your drone can use that information to predict how a person is going to move and avoid that
mm.
person. Um, so I think, yeah, some applications, especially more like robots in the wild with humans.
In the wild,
Yeah,
robots in the wild. It's classic. I don't mean to laugh. It's just so new to me, and I'm fascinated, and it blows my mind. Do you think that our children at the moment when they're our age, do you think that robots will be the norm? Do you think it'll be quite a normal way of life having robots around?
I think so. I think for them, it will come up more. The interaction with robots will be something natural. And I mean, for example, in my case, I have about three years old daughter. She's
I
gonna
thought you
have
were going to
like
say a 3-year-old robot. I thought it was going to like it's coming behind you. So,
no, even though sometimes I work on robots and design some robots, and I feel like they're like my babies, but
yeah.
I don't call them babies yet. But for example, my daughter, since she was born, at that time when she was born, I was working for iRobot, so I had my own Roomba, and I used to take robots to test at my house, and also at the time where we have an Alexa at home as well, because also Alexa, you can use Alexa to communicate with some robots and tell
Mm,
your robot to go to the kitchen. So and that's something natural. Like my daughter, she knows the robot. She knows what the robot
amazing,
does. She's a
amazing.
bit scared of the robot vacuum cleaner, but now she talks to Alexa, to play music
Yeah.
and those sort of things. And I think at the moment, I mean, we don't have yet lots of robots in our houses. Maybe vacuum cleaners is the most representative example. But
Mm,
I think that's gonna change in the next 10 years. We're gonna have other types of robots, mopping robots, surveillance robots, lawnmowers. So in a way, maybe at the end, maybe the house is a robot itself.
Yeah,
so,
amazing. I've
so I
seen
think
those.
that's gonna come naturally. They will know how to interact. It's a bit the same like people that grew up with or some generation that grew up with mobile phones and TVs. Like for
Mm,
example,
mm.
my mom struggles with the TV with the remote.
Same. Honestly, still, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I'm about to. I'm going to the office after this, and Mum's already asked me to put a program on from last night. She doesn't even know how to use catch up. So I'm exactly this. It's a different. It's a
Yeah.
generational thing, isn't it? And I think that you're right. That
But a 5-year-old
yeah,
boy or girl now, they know how to do it even better than us. They know.
yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I think I don't have children, but I've got a puppy, and I've even seen robotic dogs, and it's just like, the plus thing would be that you don't have to clear up their crap, which is probably quite a good thing. But it blows my mind when I see some of the stuff. But for me to think, I don't know, sitting down watching the football and asking a robot to go and get me a beer from the fridge, I'll probably turn a bit too lazy, but it's also, it also sounds pretty incredible to me. So especially if you've got people around and you can have a robot serving you while you're hosting the dinner party or
No,
something. So
it's pretty amazing when you think about it. I mean, it sounds a bit like not too exciting when you say, well, I think to me it sounds exciting, but it sounds a bit like, oh, robot, go to the kitchen and bring me a beer. It sounds like, okay, you are lazy, but then there is so much in there because the robot first needs to understand your language, what you're telling him, the robot. Then the robot needs to understand, okay, if you are in the living room, needs to understand that the robot needs to go to the kitchen, needs to know how to navigate from the living room to the kitchen, open the fridge, understand, okay, this is the beer that you want,
yeah,
grab the beer and go back to the living room.
yeah.
And that's super
Without
challenging.
spilling anything,
Yeah, with
or
a
I'll send
messing
him back,
around.
get another one.
So it's it sounds simple, but then
Yeah,
it's not. That in a way, it's lots of exciting problems that
yeah, no, absolutely.
in
Just
universities and industry we people have been working
yeah.
for more than 20 years.
Yeah, amazing. I guess kind of like my last. I want to kind of finish this up in a second, but I guess my last question. Robots aren't going to take over the world anytime soon, aren't they? I know how Terminator ended. It's not. It's not kind of. We're not at that stage yet, are we? Please, Pablo.
No, I guess I'm a bit skeptical. Well, I think we need to keep an eye, but still we are far from like a true artificial intelligence. I think it's very sort of the artificial intelligence that we have at the moment is very limited in a way. Um, so we'll need to keep an eye, but I think we are far from that. I'm a bit more worried like that. I'm more worried about the humans at this point because if we do have more robots in the wild or in our homes, and robots are connected to the internet, then they could be attacked by humans
Wow.
or
Yeah.
like any mobile
Yeah.
phone. So
I think from my perspective, I think, especially working in recruitment, I hope that, it doesn't take jobs away from, from humans. Obviously, I think that if we can kind of have robotics, which is, it's definitely, especially in the post-COVID world, and especially when you talk about things in healthcare, I think it's incredible pluses and really interesting things that robotics and robotics as a service can help us with. I think as long as, like I say, it kind of, people don't lose jobs and stuff like that. But it's fascinating, and I really enjoyed this, Pablo. Thank you so much. I kept up with what you were saying, so thank you for explaining and keeping things very simplistic for somebody who just doesn't understand enough about your industry. I'm going to post this socially. Are you okay if people have questions? Are you okay for people to reach out to you? Is that okay? Maybe on LinkedIn, just if they've got any kind of follow-up questions.
yeah, that's perfectly fine. They can reach me out on LinkedIn, and I promise I will reply to them. Yeah, when I find time.
I know you're an extremely busy guy, juggling a business, a growing company, and a family. I know is also a
Yeah.
massive challenge for you. So, thank you very much for your time. That wraps everything up today, everybody. Thank you very much for listening in. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Insider. Thank you very much to Pablo, and I'll speak to you all very soon.